Thank you so much to my dear friend, to Steve Olson, who really was the genius behind Select USA, and with whom I'm so pleased to work with on Select LA, and Stephen and everybody from the World Trade Center, Bill Allen, LA EDC. And thank you all for being here. Sawaditen bui, bon après-midi, buenas tardes, showuhau, dobre opoletne, huwa iltapaiva, Guten Nachmittag, Namaskar, Yunaput, Konnichiwa, Annyeonghaseyo, Boa tarde, Bunaziwa, Ciao, Bui, Chua, and good afternoon. I hope I got everybody's language there. I'm still working on my Finnish and my Vietnamese there, so excuse me to my dear friends. Sorry? Marhaba. Thank you. Arabic. I looked just at the RSVPs. Maybe you RSVP'd late, but I'm glad to always have Arabic as well. And good afternoon. Thank you, everybody, for taking time to be here today. We are so excited about the energy, the talent, the passion that is in this room. And it's really extraordinary, and it's made possible when you bring together private and public actors. When you bring the entire world here, I can only imagine what time it is for some of you because you've literally come from around the world to be here. But CEOs and diplomats, municipal leaders, my friends from Guangzhou and Auckland, our sister cities that are here, we have a common goal, which is here today to forge partnerships right now that can help us be more prosperous in the future. Partnerships to create jobs, partnerships to grow our economies, and partnerships that will bring our people closer together. Because commerce and money is nice, but human relationships are more important and more lasting. And so I want to thank everybody who's made this all possible here today. And it's a pleasure to have counterparts from, as I mentioned, our two sister cities, Bill Cashmore, who's the Deputy Mayor of Auckland, and Chen Zhuying, the Executive Vice Mayor of Guangzhou. Thank you. I'll be meeting with them just after this, but what a pleasure it is to welcome you back. Also, I know you've had Councilmember David Ryu here as well today, our consuls general that are here representing Mexico and Finland and Poland, whoops, I didn't do any Polish, and the Czech Republic, and hundreds of business leaders representing the city's most important sectors. As we speak, it's kind of a little bit of storm clouds overhead, the potential of a trade war globally, playing out in the headlines. There's voices from DC and foreign capitals who are calling for us to go inward, to keep people out, to keep goods out, looking for more nationalism, more isolationism, and less engagement. And I know that some look at this country and wonder about our commitments to the world, to diplomacy, to our longtime alliances, to a fair trade system. And this debate leads us to ask what kind of country and city we wish to be, what kind of world we wish to push forward. I think it's clear who we are here in Los Angeles. We know too often, sometimes we're at loggerheads even with our own national leaders. Washington, too often, instead of reaching out and putting a hand to our valued partners and friends and trading allies, we often have, instead of an open hand, a closed fist. But here in LA, I think we can stake a different pathway and a different claim. We won the Olympics, yes, for a third time, but I'm sure our British and French consuls general will say London's had it 3 times now and Paris will just before us, but we're one of 3 cities that will enjoy the Olympics for a third time and a Paralympics for the first time. We won that and will welcome the world because we offered a vision of the world today, and I believe of this nation tomorrow. A place and a city where everyone belongs. A place that we believe you aren't defined by the language that your parents speak, or the place of your birth, or how you worship God, or whom you love. You are defined by what you want to do and what your dreams are. We know in this city what a great contribution our connections with the world has made. I wouldn't be here if this city wasn't connected to the world. And a grandfather who was a refugee from war in Mexico came with his mother when he was 1 year old. When my mother's grandparents came here fleeing oppression in the Russian Empire over a century ago, if this hadn't been a place where they belonged, I wouldn't be here today as your mayor. On our main streets, where 61% of our businesses are opened by immigrants, we understand the contributions directly in our city of those connections with the world. But we also know that this isn't just unique to Los Angeles, that our connections to one another that we can't afford to have an analog 20th century look at a digital 21st century moment. And we shouldn't fear these realities. I know that there is a lot of anxiety in this world today and a lot of excitement together. I call it anxitement. It's kind of that feeling that good things are coming, but the nervousness of what they might bring. The breakthroughs in medicine, but will all of our people be able to afford them? A quicker communication, but do we understand each other or talk to people who have different opinions from us? We shouldn't be putting up barriers, I believe. Whether it's walls or tariffs, we should be engaging with each other, with faster, quicker, and deeper connections. We can't turn our backs to opportunity, we should be seizing them. And that's what we're striving for in Los Angeles. That is the Angelino, and I believe the American way. Because we know that disengaging from one another never historically leads to good things. It leads to wars, military wars, leads to trade wars and economic depressions. It's not a way to prosper, and we can agree to disagree. We should sit down and work out and make sure, yes, that trade is fair, that the rules are abided by everyone. But we need to just as urgently make sure that we connect with each other. In a city as international as Los Angeles, just 1% of our businesses export to the world. So we're looking to double that through work that we're doing, conscious work to say, you know somebody, you might even come from another country yourself. Let's see what we can do to open up those business opportunities for you as a small, medium, or large business here. And we know that progress never takes place in a vacuum. It has to happen together. Yes, people see an economy in this country, sometimes around the world, that too often works for the few and not for the many. Yes, technology has never been more disruptive, and we're not sure if there will be jobs for us in the future. But yes, in this country, partisanship, the discussion between parties has never been greater, the disagreements. But that means that it's up to us at the people-to-people and the local level to cut through those headlines, to make sure that those divisions are replaced by things that bring us together and multiply our progress together. We know that our city's moment has arrived here in Los Angeles. Our global connections have never been stronger. We're in the midst of one of those great LA decades. We had it in the 1930s when we hosted our first Olympics, ironically, and we built a great city. In the 1980s, when we became a great global city and again hosted the Olympics, but saw an international airport, we saw the connections with the world. And then this decade, where we have seen this truly be a Pacific century, here in this city where Los Angeles to China is now the most traveled transoceanic air corridor, replacing New York to London, which had been the dominant one since the beginning of air travel. That's not going to change in our lifetimes. And how we can seize this moment as this northern capital of Latin America and this eastern capital of the Pacific Rim and the western capital of the United States, Los Angeles is a place you need to be, and where we want you to be as well. In just 4.5 years since I've been mayor, we've seen 170,000 jobs be created. That's the size of a decent-sized American city. I know that's just a small neighborhood in China, but that's a decent-sized American city. We've cut our unemployment rate by more than half. More than 222,000 businesses have set up shop here in those 4.5 years. And our city's economy now is the third largest in the world. Now, you might be thinking I'm talking about GDP. And GDP is interesting, but it's kind of an artificial thing, right? The borders of a country are the results of history and arbitrary things like war and colonialism. States, at least in this country, are also the same kind of accidental boundaries. But a city is natural. It's organic. It's a place that people come and decide to stay if they want. And so if you measure economies by the size of urban economies, Tokyo is #1, New York is #2, and we're just behind, #3, even though we're 22nd in terms of our population globally. We have the highest GDP per worker growth of any major city in the world over the last 15 years, a nearly 50% higher increase in worker productivity than New York City, London, and Paris. And foreign firms have helped drive this growth and productivity with close to 5,000 international firms across the county of Los Angeles employing more than 200,000 workers, translating to almost $13 billion in gross municipal product. And to get here, these businesses will send folks through LAX, now the 5th busiest airport in the world, the #1 origination and destination airport in America, with 70 new international nonstop flights just since I've been mayor in the last 4.5 years. We have the busiest port in the Western Hemisphere and in the Americas, and together with our airport, trade reached an all-time high of $400 billion here last year. And as we've said a few times, as I've said, since the last LA Summit, we won the gold. And we have a decade now to prepare for the Olympics and Paralympics, a point on the horizon for all of us to reimagine what do we want this city to be like. When visitors come to your house, you clean up, you make it look nice. Well, we're going to have the world coming here in a decade. And already we've made those decisions. 15 new rapid transit lines, the most built in an American city at any given time in modern history. We've made the commitment to building housing and make sure that we can end homelessness in this city and have affordable housing for all of our people. Global culture is thriving here, from the Lucas Museum that was mentioned, the Los Angeles County Museum, which is the most expensive expansion of a museum in America, the Motion Picture Academy Museum to highlight, finally, movie-making magic right here. And King Tut even chose Los Angeles first on his final world tour. Now, if you have time, we advise you to go down to the Exposition Park just about a mile south of here and see King Tut on the last time he will leave Egypt before permanently staying there in a couple years. So as Washington talks about barriers, we open up our doors, because doing so opens us up as well to growth and to prosperity, and most importantly, to friendship with you. While we look at these barriers that others see before us, we see instead these opportunities. And you just have to look around the skyline here in downtown to see that that isn't an abstraction for us. That's something physical right in our midst. Several of our largest projects downtown are made possible by investors from Asia, Europe, Canada. This doesn't scare us, this excites us. It creates jobs to know that Korean and Chinese and Japanese and British capital are helping build the Los Angeles of tomorrow. When heads of state like Justin Trudeau come to Los Angeles, I'm proud to be able to spend time with him, because this is the biggest collection of Canadians outside of Canada. For some 30+ countries, the largest population outside the home country. So when you come to Los Angeles, you're not coming someplace foreign, you're coming someplace familiar. You're coming home. And we're not waiting for the world to come to us to do business. We're sending our companies into the world. I'm going to be going this July to Asia, to Japan, to Korea, to Hong Kong, to Vietnam, to continue the work that we've been doing, to expand and to work on those trade deals, those investment and tourist ties that we have. We're certain of our place in the world, and we're secure about it. Seizing opportunities before us, not simply welcoming partners, but seeking you out. And that's really what today is all about. We are so eager to work with anyone who wants to pick up their pen and write a bit of this next chapter of Los Angeles' history with us, because it is here in our cities, in this city, that we will achieve the next cancer breakthrough. You heard Dr. Soon-Shiong talk about the medical breakthroughs that are happening here in this great biotech center. We'll build the rocket that takes us to Mars. SpaceX was just named the #1 disruptive business in the world yesterday by CNBC, who brought their usual conference down from Northern California to right here in Los Angeles. It's here we will develop technologies that will transform our communities and our commutes. And this isn't abstract rhetoric. Uber, Elevate brought the world's greatest vertical takeoff and landing vehicle companies here. These are the flying cars of the future you've heard about. It's going to happen maybe even before autonomous vehicles blanket our streets. And they wanted to be here in Los Angeles because this is the center of that technology. The world's first email was sent from Los Angeles up to Northern California. We are proud of this legacy of innovation. And we passed, as was mentioned, Measure M, the largest infrastructure package in United States history at the local level. In the next 40 years, it represents $120 billion of investment. And we want great companies. We already have Spanish and Chinese and Japanese companies that are helping us to build that infrastructure today, and we want them to help us build it tomorrow, to expand 15 rapid transit lines, create 770,000 jobs, to electrify our bus fleet, to do all the work that we want to have a healthier world as well as a more economically prosperous one. And our clean tech incubator, which is just here downtown, alongside investments in renewable energy, have created about 30,000 new green jobs here just in the last 5 years. I know you hear a lot about coal these days, and I know China's working hard to get off of coal. We're going to be coal-free here in Los Angeles for our energy generation in 2025. Those 30,000 new green jobs that we've created are the equivalent of 60% of this entire nation's remaining coal jobs, and we're just about 1% of the population. So think about that. We know what that future is. We know we can create great electricity and energy. We can electrify our fleets and have a zero-emissions port while creating jobs and economic prosperity. In fact, in 2016, we reduced our global greenhouse gas emissions by 11% in a single year. We reduced our unemployment rate that same year by 15%. These things go hand in hand. You're never going to hear me say, that is such a great idea, go do it someplace else. You're going to hear me say, that's a great idea, test it here. We want to do it here first. We want to succeed and or fail forward with you. This is the greatest platform in the world of the most diverse collection of human beings anywhere ever assembled, not just in the world today, but in human history. And why do we want you here? This is not about money. This is about your brilliance, of how you can push us forward and lift us up. And we know that we can contribute that back to the world, that something that's successful here, like the innovation we're doing at the Port of LA with GE Capital to make a more predictable algorithm to know when cargo is coming in and how to move it more quickly, we're already looking at licensing that and sharing that with Mumbai, with ports in Asia and in Europe, because we know when we innovate here, we don't want to cling on to that knowledge. We want to share it with the world. Companies like the Boring Company or Hyperloop, if we make those breakthroughs in technology, we want to see them in places like Dubai. We want to see them in places all around the world as well. And that's why we are launching a foreign direct investment pilot, which will create even more high-quality jobs right here in Los Angeles. And with the support of World Trade Center LA, we're going to highlight the outsized impact that foreign direct investment enterprises have on our city. I think it's really important Americans hear that, because we know how many jobs American companies create around the world, but we want to highlight what foreign companies do to create that prosperity here, from the jobs you create to the economic impact that they produce. And we're going to launch a toolkit that helps businesses and other potential investors look at the city's assets and our key sectors that are primed right now for foreign investment. And the newly created Mayor's Office of International Affairs, led by Ambassador Hachigian, Felipe Kuznir, who's our Director of International Trade, will be right there to direct that work forward, to help attract investors, to host global leaders, to remind the world that Los Angeles is open for business. We spend, I know in this room, a lot of time on the bottom line, the dollars and cents or whatever your currency is that we neatly divide into an equation that we think demonstrates progress. But for us, and I think for all of us as human beings, it's never just about the bottom line. It's about what we build and what we create from the bottom up in our time on this earth. We know here in Los Angeles, our city will only succeed when we harness everybody's talents and everybody's potential, when we leave nobody in this city or on this earth behind. And when we do that here, we know that that helps you over there, wherever there is for each one of you. A strong Los Angeles, we believe, contributes to a stronger world. When our assembly lines are at capacity, when our tech firms develop a new, more efficient microchip, when our biotech firms identify a life-changing treatment, that doesn't just help us, it helps everyone everywhere. And we do live in this exciting global economy, and progress does not know borders. So my message to you here today in conclusion is simple. You belong here. We want you here. And so let's work together right here. And I encourage you all to select LA. Thank you all so much.